Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you step by step how you can paint this gorgeous city rainscape with a girl walking in the rain. So perfect, I think, as we come to the end of the year, beginning into a new year. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello. Hello.
And we're live today, and he's
Yeah.
making sure that whatever I'm teaching, whatever I'm demonstrating, whatever tools I'm using, colors I'm mixing, you can really see that with one of our many robotic cameras. Now, right now, this is live, but it will be available on replay. If you're here for the live stream, you can put your questions into all caps. We have a lot of moderators, and their purpose isn't actually art cops. Think of them more as art guides or art facilitators. They're just viewers like you who've been here a really long time and know where all the videos are in the 1,500 videos that I have. So if you're like, how do you do this? They might actually have the video where I talked about that. They might share a link with you or help you find something on the website. We do catch the occasional weird bot troll, but really, honestly, it's really kind of an art family. So put your questions all in caps. Now, sometimes I answer your questions live on the show. If you come after and you have a question, you put it in the comments. I check those daily. So as much as possible, I try to keep up on it because this is first and foremost an art education channel, not a influencer channel. So I actually answer my comments. You can also go to the website. We're going to find a traceable. If you don't want to do the drawing portion of that today, you can use the traceable. It's not cheating. It's in fact a technique that was created by masters to do repetitive work. So when everyone says tracing is cheating, you just know that they haven't studied that part in art school. It's just not. So it's okay to use that as stage, but I am going to show you how to put it in if that's something you wanted to learn how to do. Man, I'm excited about today.
Yeah,
you excited, John?
I am.
I'm excited about today. Let's get me small and I'll go over what I'm using. Because I made a little change from my original description to right now because I realized something. And this happens to me.
What's that?
So I am going to change. I took out a color. I took out yellow ochre because I don't think I'm going to need it. I put it back in later, but I was just looking at it. I'm like, man, I don't really see where I have to have it. And sometimes if I don't have to have a color, I don't want to use a color. So that's the thing that happens. Now, this is an 8x8 surface. I do that. Really, it was a random style size choice that I started years ago on Acrylic April. And I've just found it really convenient and they hang really well in the house. So if you're doing a lot of paintings, this is a great size to do. You can make it bigger or smaller really easily too. This is phthalo green, burnt sienna, yellow, a cad yellow medium. So I just decided to just do this one yellow. Quinacridone magenta, cad red medium, dioxazine purple, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, Mars black. And in the center, I'm going to put out some titanium white. Look at my big tube that is all crimped and messed up. See, if your tubes are a hot mess and you're like, what are her tubes like? Also a hot mess. If you have neat tubes, then bless you. I appreciate your organization and I wish I shared it, but I don't have it.
We're not tidy tube people here.
Let's all take a deep breath. Let it out. Sometimes we can get nervous and stressed when we're painting, especially when we're learning. If you like this topic, I have been doing girl in the rain paintings for like 10 years. So there's some different ones. I even have one hoot ones that go all the way back to the beginning of the channel. Oh my goodness, Carrie Bradley, member for 22 months. Woo! That is awesome. All right, so we're going to do something a little weird, a little different, a little interesting here. I'm going to grab a number 4 round and I think a number 1 liner. And I'm going to have John put up a step. Now, our steps will be time-stamped after the show so you can find your spot again, especially in a long class like this because you may want to rest and come back and find your spot again. And also, it matches the mini books that we write and release 7 to 14 days after the show. Those are written down instructions that match the video instructions so that you can have both of those levels of learning. And they make a huge difference in the results that you guys get. So if this is maybe a harder painting than you've tried before and you really, really want to get a good result, you may want to wait for that mini book or repaint when the mini book comes out. I'm going to take first this number 4 Simply Simmons round. And I'm going to do something I've been doing a little bit lately, which is I'm going to take some of my burnt sienna into my Mars black. And I'm going to kind of make a little sort of adjacent Grisaille painting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch her in and sort of hit her values and everything, and then kind of be able to paint around her and then paint over her, and the values will be there for me. Do you love that, John?
I do.
So I'm just using first the toe of my brush. And this is very sketchy. And the wonderful thing, if you're using the traceable, use the traceable now. Now is the moment for your traceable. I'm going to bring this kind of down. This is her hat. I'm working at her hat. Kind of starting there. I just sometimes just pick a place to start in a drawing. I'm going to bring this kind of around. I want a nice little brim so there's some width. It's a little different drawing on a canvas or on paper than in a digital resource because you can really easily change your mind in a digital resource like SketchUp or Adobe, though I'm being taught Procreate right now, which is much better. Super excited about it because it has more tools. Make everything look a little less sketchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm going to put a little collar down here. Kind of moved her, I think, much more over to the right here.
She's a bit over there. Do you want a fresh canvas to reset into more?
No, I'll show. Like, if you sketch in the wrong way, what would you do? That's what I'm going to just show you.
Well, I know it's like for show purposes, but I mean like for like at home.
I'm going to come here, and because it's really not important, I will just put out some white paint and kind of go, you know what? I really want her over a bit. And so this is how I would change my mind. Look at me go.
You can just
Just do
here
that.
I am,
I'm gonna
like,
dry it
save time
and
live.
go at it
Like,
again,
like,
and it's not a problem.
by the time you walk over, you
So-
go ahead and dry it. Go dry it. It's okay.
Yeah.
By the time I walk over, got a new canvas, open it up, bring it back over here, she'll be back there. Just yeah, it won't take but just a second. There you go. We don't need to restep this.
No, this is actually good to see. Sometimes when you're doing this kind of work, it's good to see how you would fix something. I'm taking my roller to make sure that I have a little bit of space from the side. So I'm actually going to, I think, center her a little more at 2.5 inches from the side. And I also want to make sure that I give myself some ground, right? Like at least an inch of ground here. So I need her feet to stop there. I'm going to come up and make sure that I've got at least this much distance from the top, right? So I'm leaving kind of 1.5 inches up there from the top. So this gives me a little thing. And another thing that I can do, if I want to make sure that she doesn't get angled on me, I can kind of come down and make a little anchoring line. And now I'm super happy. I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. Don't let things being weird or wrong or going a different way than you initially imagined in your head be a deterrent from what you're doing. You know, chances are you're going to be fine anyways, and you just keep going. I'm just using this like I would a pencil. I'm just sketching very lightly. And now that you know you can just paint out anything you don't like, this is a good way of doing that. You can also sketch this in chalk with like a chalk pencil. That's a completely doable thing. There's a way to do it with pencil if you can seal it down where it's not going to get up into your paint. I'll have to show that sometime. I think that will be an interesting thing to see. I'm going to come down a little bit, and I like to anchor shoulders. This is something you'll have seen me do a bunch, where when I'm trying to do a figure, I like to anchor my shoulders. I think of it as a bit of like a hanger, where everything can go off. And what this is really about is this lets me make sure that my shoulders or eyes or things that are symmetrical or jointed in the same positioning on the body are where they go. If you're wondering why one would do that, I'm going to come here and come down and add a little bit of a waist. It's like about 2 fingers down for me. Come in and put in a little collar in. So it's just a very light paint sketch, right? Nice little collar. I'm going to talk a little bit about the sleeve joint. Bringing little fabric bits up. And I want to make sure that this coat is kind of got some, I don't know, like motion to it, because she's walking and I want my coat to have a little bit of motion. And that's fun to sort of create. You can see I'm just working light with the paint. This will make it much easier when you get this incorrectly, or you can use the traceable and then you sketch in the paint, you know, over that traceable. This will make it easier when you're painting in the rest of the painting to have her, because she's so in focus compared to everything else, which is really in a diffused focus. You know, you're seeing it through the rain, and then we're seeing her with quite a lot of clarity. I like the, very much, I like the feeling of the coat. Now I'm going to switch to my #1 liner because I need some control over the lines, and I'm going to use my glasses so I can actually see, which I find super helps whenever I'm drawing. And I'm going to taper in the leg line. The knee is behind the coat, so we're really kind of just working the calf. I think it's important to always kind of pull an ankle in. Even though this is sort of in a very dark space, I still want to make sure that I have those things. Coming forward, and then I can bring this little foot slightly forward. I like that she had little stretch leggings.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I like that very much. I'd done that kind of initially as a spoofy spoof, but then was like, nope, I love it.
I'm just amazed how you just go boom, 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 and there's a person there.
You know, getting that in. And I'm going to keep using my little line because I want to be able to set my elbows. Now, I've got one elbow that I'm going to set. I might actually even raise my coat up. The other thing that's nice about this is that, you know, like when I'm making little changes like this, if I'm like, let's raise up that waistline. See how easy that is for me to do?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't really stress myself out with that too much. Using my little one-liner here. You can pull that in. I'm going to talk about an elbow there, and I'm going to talk about another sort of little elbow here, but that's because it's sort of coming up and in. This one is a little closer into the coat, so I don't have to have that as positioned as far out. I'm just loosely sketching that in.
Just really like how you just know where everything kind of goes. I guess that's why you have
Well,
it traceable for folks.
that's why we do the traceable, but also I have little indicators, right? Like even if I have a high-waisted coat, I know that my elbows need to fulcrum in a little bit around the waist. If you think about Leonardo's painting of man where the arms kind of come out in that little circle, you'll notice that there's like sort of a wheel that you can always imagine your figures working from, you know, where they're always going to be in that sort of certain shadow. And I like this. This is pretty good. Now I'm going to start maybe doing some value work, right? So I'm taking my black and my brown together. My number 4 round again. And I'm going to start to put in some of the wrinkles, maybe.
Sort of folds and stuff there.
Yeah.
This is sort of not only sort of paint era sketching it in, but it's providing that base Grisaille-ish kind of stuff, huh?
It is providing that base Grisaille-ish kind of a thing, yes. I'm going to come here and add this little shadow here.
It's almost like I followed this cute girl through college getting an art degree.
Oh, so long ago, so long ago. I can add a bit of that little shadow in there. And this starts to let me really see maybe where some of my deeper values could be. Taking time to do this can make other things go much faster.
Much faster.
Much faster. Doesn't maybe feel like it at this moment, but it can. All right, we get the little shadow kind of coming in on the coat there. Little inside arm shadow.
Trish is really excited about this one. She loves it.
I really enjoy this one. It just speaks to me, and it's sort of like I've done a lot of them in the rain, and this is, you know, this is the one where we're going to take it a little bit further. You know, every time we come together, we can take it a little bit further. Adding a little bit of that shadow on the hat there. You know, maybe into the headband. Under. Just kind of pulling this in. You know, so now we're sort of seeing perhaps a little bit of where that coat is, you know, got the shading in it.
Yeah. There's a lot there's a lot of complexity in this drawing you've done.
Isn't there?
As eloquently as I articulated
All right. Now,
that.
what's great about the step-by-step is in the mini book, there'll be this step photographed. If you're like, oh, I really want to see how that was done or how that was worked out, right? You would have that in the mini book. Now, I'm going to dry this with my hair dryer.
Okay.
And we're going to come back and do the next step. It's all pretty downhill from here.
Yeah, so this is actually, the Grisaille work on this one actually makes this really pretty straightforward. Once you have the, I'm noticing that I think I can get my camera a little sharper. Every time I see that, I'm like, oh, can I get a little focus? Oh, there's a little, maybe there's an edge, more pixel, more sharperness in that I can get. So I always get a little light. Anyway, sharpen my cameras up. I think dry your canvas thoroughly as I get distracted by my bells and whistles in here, my little dooders. I have to manually do everything. Sort of. It's weird how I start to reflect on my work as I'm sitting here talking to you guys. You don't need to hear how weird my button pushing consoles are. I have so many unlabeled buttons. Actually, it's not as bad as it used to be.
There we go.
I think you're ready for a new step, huh?
I'm ready for a new step. Now, to lay out my next step, I'm definitely going to want to kind of put in the out of focus stuff that's happening in the background. It's very out of focus. I'm going to pull the lower end of the bush to right about there. It stops here, and I'm going to just sketch down that it comes here. Right? And that is weirdly, we just need to know where that object is, because the rest of it just sort of goes in as we go. Now all this is very fuzzy, and then we know we've got some little fuzzy distant things back there, but they're so out of focus we don't really have to worry about them that much. I think I'm going to grab a bright. I'm going to kind of go at this with a bright, I think, for a minute, because I'm going to like it for its ability to pull down and blend. This is a number 18 Raphael Artini brush, and we're going to start mixing some of the colors and pulling down this very streaky, rainy background. Let's begin with a little bit of my Docks purple and my Cad red. And you want a couple values here. You know, as I go forward, it's very interesting. I can go into my dioxazine and my phthalo green, which makes this kind of weird blue, dark background, which makes perfect bush. Notice that I'm curving these brush strokes. I'm pulling them to about through here. It'll go more green from there on out. We've got a couple layers here we're going to work. So I can go into a little bit of green brown. I'm just trying to make this very sort of soft and a little bit out of focus. Back into my purple and green. Not bad. I'm going to rinse out a little bit so when I transition over, I'm doing okay. I'm going to continue with a little bit of the red and purple. but I'm going to get some of this white into it. And I'll work these two little edges together, right? Because I want them to be a little out of focus. Maybe a little bit of my cad red, my magenta, and my cad yellow. A little more into the peach, so I got a little more yellow there. And again, you've got a couple layers, so this is layer 1.
Oh, so
I'm going to wipe off my brush but not rinse it. And that's because I want a very light color. A little more yellow into it.
I have a great bug announcement that I to make.
That you have to make?
Well, just when you're ready for it.
Let me get through this little thing because I kind of want to work this a little bit wet into wet.
That's what I thought, so I wanted to let you know.
You don't want to have stripes, guys. You're wanting to have a transition. We're going to come back through with the brush and create those little kind of distant things, but you definitely, I'm going to take my burnt sienna and my ultramarine blue. And we're going to just go up and down, pretty rough. Up and down around her. Again, layer 1. Your painting's going to have an ugly stage. That's okay. As long as you commit to getting through all the stages of the painting, you're going to be all right. Now, I'm not going to rinse out my brush. I'm going to wipe it off, leaving pigment on it. So when I come to get into the white, right, it's not perfectly white, but it's a much lighter value. Kind of scumbling back and forth into that area there. This is the underpainting. This is where we're getting values underneath. So when we put the layers on top, they start to weave together to create something kind of wonderful. I might even get a little black into here, a little black, little blue. Take it even cooler. Just brushing that wet into wet, making a very diffused, out of focus look. All right, we're going to call that a layer.
That's a step?
Yes, that's a step. It's a layer. It's a whole thing.
Are you going to dry this one?
I am, and I would love my coffee reheated. Okay. So guys, this was a weird thing to go through. Breathe in, breathe out. It was a lot of color transitions. It's not fun when we write the books when I do this. It is a lot of color transitions, but knowing how to leave your brush dirty and work through a series of colors to create those kind of muted stuff, it's super important.
Don't dry it.
Don't dry it.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Mary wants to know.
Hey.
Before we go to the next step, Larry wants to know, and then I got a thing for the bug. Where did it go? I'm switching to Sennelier abstract paints, and I'm wondering, what would you suggest using in place of phthalo blue, as I see they do not carry the blue.
Primary blue is their phthalo blue.
Primary blue.
Mm-hmm. The trick that you can see is it's so what they have in professional paints, the phthalo blue is biased green shade or red shade. In paints that are more economical, what they do is they do a phthalo blue that's not biased either way. So it's actually a true primary blue, but it's still PB15. It's just not little colon 3, which is biased to the green shade. And I don't remember what, I should have memorized red too, because you can see it in the pigment codes. But that's like, when I started working with them, it took me a second. And their primary yellow is kind of like a cad yellow, and their primary red's kind of like cad. It's interesting.
So okay, and the other thing is that we missed earlier because I had a small.
There was a bug announcement.
Yeah, I had a dad emergency, so I was away from chat for a second. Okay, but the bug today marks the bug's 2-year Sherpaversary. The very first painting with the Sherpa was exactly 2 years today.
Happy anniversary.
They said, "Thank you for enriching my life with the amazing environment you've created." Well, thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you for enriching our lives by being part of everything that we're doing here. I really appreciate it. Very, very, very much.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So we do the lower half?
Do you need to go ahead and dry it real quick just to make sure?
Yeah, let's dry it.
Just quick, give it a quick dry. Make sure. Okay. So we'll give it a quick dry. Let it have a little sip. And then just make sure it's, because you're going to next layer it. And then, so while then we'll put it up to the next step. See, I figured this way would be putting all the little cool stuff at the end of the step rather than the beginning of the step. Okay. Now you're ready for the third step.
We're going to work in kind of the dark underpainting underneath. So I've got my wonderful little gray here. I'm going to bring my blue over to my black. My brush is sort of rinsed out. It makes a nice little light gray. And I'll come around her just a bit. Again, remember, this is the underpainting. Instead of just painting everything one color, we went this way this time. Just another way to do it. A little bit of purple.
Now, this is one of the things I've
and cad red.
Heard a lot of people talk about. Is it okay if I chat while you're doing this?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We're changing colors a lot, so
right,
we want to we're just doing a little bit of purple and cad red. We're going to be working that corridor there. Lots to do. Lots to do. Just kind of making that uneven, but we're coming back with stuff, so it's really not something to be too concerned about. As I come through here, I'm going to go ahead and add some ultramarine blue, maybe even some phthalo blue into it, because I want to cool it over here. See how we've cooled it?
Uh-huh. Let me know when you're ready. I'll keep my thought for you.
And again, this is just getting that underpainting in. It is, you have to get a certain bit of the painting in. I'm going to take a black and blue here because I want it to be quite dark. And back into the cad red and the diox purple, kind of purpling that out. So we're just now kind of thinking about what the values are, where they are. Doesn't have to be perfect by any means.
And this is such a great example of some of the questions that are coming up. So
adding a little bit of a dark value there and through here.
A lot of folks ask about why you paint the background in after you paint the foreground object. And
I usually paint a background in before I ever paint the foreground object, so that would be strange for a lot of folks to ask because I don't do it a lot.
Because sometimes you paint the background around objects.
Very rare, but I do sometimes.
Yeah, and so why do you do that? And I think it's so beautiful because the background takes into account the object that's of importance for you. So you're literally painting the background around the object that's important to create that element of composition. So I think this is such a great example of that, is that you couldn't construct the world in the background until she was there to create the emphasis of design around her.
Well, you could, but then she's like, we could have painted the whole background in and then thrown her in, which is what we usually do with Girls in the Rain. But one, because she's more architectural, doing the Grisaille at the beginning, it allows us to think about her design elements a little bit more and where she's placed and how she looks in the image. And it also lets us create kind of this very like sharp versus unfocused really easily, I think.
Okay, see,
it's just another way of doing it.
She said it so much better than I did, but that was what I was trying to say, is that you can go and dry it. Yeah, is that the purpose of doing these orders oftentimes are very intentional for cinnamon. And while it may seem counterintuitive, like, well, why would you paint the background in around the foreground object? And it's because, well, in order to let the background take into account that object, like she just said, you have to kind of do it in this order. And while, I followed the pretty girl all the way through college in an art school setting, she really does know how to do all this stuff. I am not a painter. I have watched lots and lots of paintings, so I have a dangerous knowledge of painting, I would say. But I would say, I followed you through art school and did kind of understand some of this stuff, but I really am not a painter. And so I have a dangerous understanding of it, but not an actual practical one.
You have a fantastic understanding of it. I think what it is in art is that there's a lot of ways to get there. There's different strategies. Every painting requires its own strategy, and it's okay to change your strategy on different art. Now I'm going to come through on this painting with my number 18 round. It's just because I want a nice big brush that'll let me kind of diffuse things and be scratchy and be rough and create this out of focus background. I'm going to work out the sky through here. Right, so that's what we're going to be kind of working around. And then I may take this closer up into her. Like I may come in with an angle brush and kind of bring in my background a little bit closer into her, so that it's tight around the major subject of the painting. I'm going to take a little bit of my Cad Red and my Docs Purple, and even, believe it or not, a little Quin Magenta. And I'm going to just come on the toe of my brush. Let's get a little more red into it as I go. You can see I'm mixing more red into that. And that's just distinctly. Blend those two together. And then if I come in over here, bringing a little more red and magenta and yellow into the mix, and then hit the white, we can start grabbing that little orangish color that's off to the side. That's very light. See, it's almost that strange peach orange. And I will blend back in. Now, I don't want to take too much pigment out of my brush, so I'm going to just wipe here. And I'm going to get my peach, and I need it just a little more peach than what I have. So I get into the yellow. Brushing that very diffused down into here. Maybe up a little bit. See, I'm creating those little variances in the tone. Now I'm going to rinse out for just a second. I'm liking how that's going, actually. And I'm going to really wipe my brush off, and I'm going to get a little bit of that color that's there and just a lot of white. And, if I grab a little of this green and brown right here, can make some little, see that soft blended into the distant background? These are out of focus areas, and that's how we're going to create our lack of focus.
I don't have to create lack of focus. It comes innately from me.
It's naturally where
It's
you're
just-
at.
I was born with it, just oozing lack of focus.
Okay, and I'm making sure I really wet my brush out because I don't want too much moisture in it. I'm going to come down here with a little of my black and blue, and I'm just up and down with my brush stroke.
I'm not sure if you caught Amy is caroling
Mm-mm.
in chat.
I missed Amy's caroling in chat. I'm coming in real tight around here. Real tight here. Because I don't want it to, you know, get away from me. Rinsing out. I'm going to grab a little of my ultramarine blue and mix it over into my green and brown. And get that into my white. And that'll sort of capture this sort of green area of the gray. I don't know if you guys can catch that slightly green hue up there. Really feather that edge, right? Even lighter. It's a rainy day. Really on the toe around her, kind of. See how I'm tightening this up? I can always make the hat bigger into that space. A lot more white on the brush there. Just blending, 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 blending. Rinse out a little bit. And get into this mauve that we mixed earlier. Look at that. Might come in on the purple. Look at that blending in together. Wipe out and like a lot more white on here. This is just a hint, okay? Up in the rain of this color. Just a hint. Woo! That was crazy, right? Aren't we doing good? Now, we don't have to dry anything, so we're going to just continue on. I'm going to get a little of my purple and magenta and red together. And kind of wiggle. A little bit of a rough and scratchy. That's nice, isn't it? Add a bit of it there. Okay, let's call that a step, I think, and we're gonna dry it and come back and continue on our journey as it just starts coming together more and more.
Yeah. Thoroughly dry. Thoroughly dry between steps. And that'll allow you to get that next layer of hazy. Just thoroughly dry. Thoroughly. Get all the way. And that way the next layer you can see it dry through there. There it goes. You ready for your next step?
I think I am. Gotta sip my coffee. So just layering it up. Layer, 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 like the rain is here.
Oh, yeah.
Like we're Annie Lennox. So I've really wrung this one out, and I'm going to come here and mix my green and brown like you do. And this time add just a smidge of yellow to it. And lighten some of this area in my bush. That's pretty, isn't it? I love that. And then get back into the brown and green. Kind of blending that in just on the toe. It's sketchy. It's loose. It's questionable. And we love it for it. You can see that I'll come in and put dark values, and I'm wiggling the brush around. And again, that's just keeping it out of focus. Add a little blue in there. I haven't put in this dark value yet. Little blue. Can always come in and add a little bit of white on that little edge there. So we're doing, and we're just wiggling the brush around. So we're putting these brush strokes where they're jumping around. We don't know where they're going. It helps confuse the eye. See, I was like, I don't know. Something happened. I'm not really sure. I'm thinking about it. I'm just not clear. You know, I've got my wonderful purple and red, which I just love very much. Just a lot of fun.
Thank you, Leslie.
I'm going to bring that through. I'm going to do my lights, my bright lights, with more of a tight brush because I want them to have distinctive shapes. They're a little more distinctive, and so that's why that's important to wait till we have a square brush. And thank you, Lise Boucher. Thank you. I'm assuming I said that right, but I probably did not. Add a little white to it. Kind of will color that through. You know, and then I can just go right in to my purple and green, I think. Such a good deep blue green color. I love it very much. And see how now we're starting to get like the full like depth of color. I'm going to do some of these little dark verticals. Notice how they're soft and upward. And I will make sure that this is deep through here. Again, that's the phthalo green, and the Doc's purple creates this really cool deep color. It's almost a chromatic black, like as we layer over it, but it'll register differently than black. And I'll definitely brush a little of it out. Kind of softening that there. I'm going to talk a little bit about these shadows here. Be more important when I have the highlights in. Come back over into that purple. Going to be a little up and down with that. Little cad red in there. There we go. We got a little bit more in. Look at us making headway with our painting.
Fantastic.
Just comes in. When it starts to come in, it just starts to come in. And, you know, that's what's super fun about it. Now, I'm going to get a smaller brush involved so I can do some detail work a few places. This is the same makeup brush, but it's a number 4. And the reason I want 2 sizes, I want the texture and the brush stroke to sort of be matchy-matchy. So that's where we're going to be doing this right now. I'm going to dry this, and when we come back, we're going to power on.
Just gonna thoroughly dry so you can see the wet spots there, and as the air moves over it. Oh, don't use the heat, of course. I think I've probably said that. If you've been here before, you'll know that. We're gonna do a whole new step here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see there. This would be the 6th step.
The 6th step. All right. I'm going to get my smaller brush wet here. This is the number 4. And I'm going to come in and get a little of my white just kind of on here and smidge a little gray into it, but just so it's not the brightest white I have, but I still want it to be pretty bright. I'll very softly kind of make a little square shape there. A little bit stronger.
Okay, here's a question.
All
right, and
slightly lighter gray.
If you have the big hog brush, but not the little hog brush, to make it matchy-matchy, is there another approach to make them align?
Try to use the round you have with a lighter touch and just come as close as you can. Like if I didn't have a hog brush, that's what I would do. Just grab my round brush and just try to match as I could. Sometimes, you know, we just go as we can. I'm adding a little lighter. You can see I'm just changing up the values here, trying to get that out of focus. Get a little bit into my gray. Just thinking about the horizontal brushstroke versus the vertical. It is the horizontal versus the vertical that will create our sense of things being wet. Whether it's in water or on a wet street, that's kind of where we pull it from. Might come into my burgundy and sort of blend a little of that in. And then more into my blue to darken up that shadow. And just brushing out, trying to keep it horizontal. Maybe a little more into that red. If I need to get a little water on my brush, I will, like if it's not like flowing off. You know, as we're just getting this more diffused workout. I'm going into that ultramarine blue with white, and I'll rinse my brush out. A little more white. See, just a little out of focus there, isn't it? Back into my black and blue. And put a little of this dark here. These are little hidden architectural elements, and it's just good to be a little bit chill with them. Be a little bit slightly reflected down there. See, I just put in a slight little reflection. A little gray and a little gray. They can be part of something that's perhaps architectural, perhaps structural. A little soft highlight there. A little soft kind of highlights there. A little bit of a out of focus there. It's fun to mess around with it. I just genuinely enjoy it. A little bit of the purple in Cad Red. It's okay to get a little white into it so we can really see it. Because this is dark, but we should be able to see a little bit of this. I'm going to grab a little purple. A little of the blue and white there, just making this sort of blendy. And sometimes I'll just kind of dampen the brush, and you can see soften that out. Just pulling that to the side there. A little more red and purple here. It's still dark. This is still the dark edge of everything, but it's nice because it gives it that little bit of reflective hue. So we're staying in a dark value, right? Super dark value. Bringing it over here to the right-hand side, brushing back and forth, keeping it horizontal. Maybe into a little bit of the green and purple to create some darkness. But it's very light, guys. It's just blending in very, very light. And that feathering up and down is also very, very light. Oh, I like this so far. This is just getting prettier and prettier as we go. As you layer, it just gets better and better.
It does.
Better and better as you go.
So yeah, I think the bug was saying earlier, definitely don't use heat when you're drawing the surface. The acrylic paint is by its very nature a polymer, thus being acrylic, and it is more reactive to heat than one would necessarily anticipate. So try not to use heat, just use the cool air, it'll cure it. The loss of water will functionally create the cure. So we'll give you a step, and then maybe, how's your coffee doing?
Yeah, I think it's almost out. I need new.
Oh.
It needs a heat or a new coffee.
Let's see what we can
One
do.
of those two things needs to happen.
We can work something out.
So now I'm going to do a thing, and I'm going to do it kind of worrying about what you guys have at home a little bit, because I know a lot of you are painting along for this. This is painting that really speaks to what we've all been going through and how life feels a little bit right now. So based on feedback, I know that a lot of you guys are going to be getting into this, doing that. So for the next bit, I do want to use my angle brush. This is a 1/4 inch Catalyst angle, and that's because I'm going to paint the basis for some of the lights white first. That way, and I'm going to come right here. If your paint is super thin, make a little one. And I want them to be a little bit architectural. They don't have to be perfect, but you do want them to be a little architectural. Gonna add one there. 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 Fairly substantial one right here. Right, where we're going to have some light, and we do want it to be fairly substantial. And where I have a light, I'm going to maybe drop down a reflection here. That's just something to think about. Go ahead and talk a little bit about that little reflection on the street there. Oh, this is fun. Thank you. This will just help you if you're just having a little bit of trouble getting any coverage. It's okay if perfect. Could be a little more coffee and could be warmer, but
Okay.
not to be so fussy.
No. I just wanted to figure out how to top it off. I just gave you creamer in there. So taste that. See if it's good. Warm it.
Okay, just creating these little verticals, and we'll adjust them a bit. We just want to kind of know where they are. There we go. I'm going to come right here, right? Make a little dot on top of it because it's like an implied lantern. Just kind of want to get those in. Once I know where those are, it's just so much easier for me to maybe put in some of the more detailed lantern lights and, you know, paint some of the structures around it. I am going to want to dry that and then come back with the brighter colors, and then I can add more structure and softness and detailing around. It's sort of like going back and forth across it, making these micro adjustments until you capture all the little yummy highlights and details and things that are so delicious in a painting.
So you can go ahead and dry that, and then I'll
Dry it.
Okay. So yeah, let's see here. Are we going to do more watercolors? Yes, we are. One of the reasons why we haven't been doing a lot of watercolors is because we've been mid-move. So we sold our house a little while ago. I don't even know when. It's a while ago. And we thought we were going to be moving directly to Ireland, but it turns out because of the type of work we do from home, it qualifies as working in Ireland. You can't work in Ireland until you have a work visa. So our work visa is an application, and that's why it's taking so long. And we're still here. But we are going to be doing watercolors again soon. Just
Our whole life just got.
That's
super
why it's
rolled.
got it tossed. But here's the next step, and then
I love watercolors. I have new watercolors to test. That
we
are
have
the new Sennelier metallics, and I got black paper.
We have all sorts of things to do.
To work on and do, for sure.
For you.
Now, I'm going to begin here with a little bit of my CAD yellow and a smidge of my CAD red. A little bit of yellow here. And you can see that it does definitely help some of what is going on. Come in and blend while it's still wet a little bit of the orange. I add a little orange on the outside. And a little bit top and bottom here. A little more to the yellow. And I may get into the reflections themselves a little bit further in. Here, I'll make a little kind of out of focus one. A little bit more of the red at the bottom of that, still on my angle brush. It's looking not terrible, not awful. I'm not hating it.
Not at all. I
I'm
love
gonna
it.
grab a little of my purple and CAD red and titanium white and apply like maybe a little bit of that structure there. A little bit there. Might even come here where I get a little bit of that mix into my orange, if you guys can see. Maybe pull a little bit here and there. Come in, you know, getting a little more purple and CAD red. Sometimes a little more into that white mix.
Many thank yous for painting along, or for painting this day. You're doing a great job. Everyone's really loving it. Michelle Art says thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I like doing, you know, I love doing the easies, but I love doing a little more challenging painting that takes us to that next place, right? I do need to learn to calculate if a digital painting takes me this long, it's going to take so long to physically paint it.
You know what? I don't know that there's an actual analog. I mean,
I'm going to learn it. I'll tell you, I think what happens is I get drawing and then I'll be just watching TV and I just lose track of time.
You're like, I'll just modify this.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll take no time when I go to paint. It'll be fine. I'm grabbing my number 4 round Artney, and I'm going to come here with some lighter. See how we're going up and down, some lighter little highlights there. Add some yellow in there. It just gets better and better. And go into my yellow and green. Going to rinse out and go more yellow and green. I want to light up the areas around my lights. So I'm going to take my green and my burnt sienna and then add some cad yellow to that and create that sort of highlighting around. Maybe some of that. It's interesting. Grab a little bit of my cad red into that purple and white mixture. Because this is another way of creating kind of a highlight in there. And this becomes its own sort of highlight, a little more cad red, a little more white. Sometimes I'll go up and down with it. Might bring some of that light color back into that dark color I had earlier. And a little bit of highlight here and there. So I'm just thinking about how those little touches of color maybe impact something. I'm going to grab a little bit of my white into my blue. This is a bit grayed because the black was there earlier. Get a little bit of that there. A little green into it for sure. Kind of making vertical strokes and again, maybe lightening some of that as we go. Little green. Black and blue again. Maybe add a little purple into it this time. What? I know. Perhaps a little lighter through there. And a little bit down. Just sort of rinsing that out. I'm enjoying it. Just generally loving it. I'm going to take a little bit of my cad red into my cad yellow. And then on some of it, make it much more cad yellow. I do want to paint out the white. Kind of think about those there. I love playing with these reflections. Hmm.
Michelle, it's Michelle Art, not Michael Art.
Yeah. I know we always make that mistake.
So yeah, it's Michelle says it's Michelle Art, not Michael Art. And man, I appreciate the understanding because like when you look down at like name pronunciation, especially on the
And it's like we know it. It's just we keep messing
Like-
it up. But we are not messing with you.
And I'll tell you, Lulabelle has been here for a long time, and I will look over and I'll go Lulabella or Lubella or it's I mean like anything but what I intend to say. And you know, I'm horrible with names anyway. Like I mispronounced Joe, so
All right. So I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow. And kind of add some just pure CAD power to the mix. As you do. Just touching it here and there. So fun to do. Just barely touching it, like leaving little pops. Very powerful thing. Just work. I love doing these so much. Okay. So I really got to dry it at this stage
okay,
to go on. So I'm going to dry it and we're going to just continue on with the journey.
okay, that totally makes sense. So I like these reflections. They're starting to come together. I can't wait until she finishes the dress up. That's going to be just so... Yeah, I'm with you, Bella. This is awesome. I'm really enjoying this today. So, again...
With the journey.
Yep.
It's fine. So I'm back to my 1/4 inch brush. And I'm going to get just a little bit of my white paint and I'm going to add a little hot spot in a lamp here or there. Just a little bit in the reflections. Maybe a little white and yellow here. See how we're just heating it up?
Mm.
Adding those pops of light. Let's say this is the city street in the rain. And I kind of want to dim this other one, so I'm going to take a little of my CAD and some of my purple. Kind of come over that because I want it to be just a little less. See how we knock that back just a smidge? And then maybe right there we knock it back a smidge. So where they're a little bit knocked back, I definitely want to make sure that I've got that going on. Little Quinn and kind of red there. Another thing that I want to do is I kind of want to do a little perspective. So I'm going to take my T-square ruler, and it's not quite on the corner of the canvas, and it's going kind of, you know, this direction is going to be our little thing. I'm going to do it a little bit light at first so I can make sure that I'm happy with it. Going to create a dark line. And then a highlighted line that kind of imply the structure of the street. Do you see it? Isn't that cool? Very much like that. That's too much. Kind of tone that down. Gonna add some light reflections, huh?
I'm not sure. I think I may have read it wrong. It is Michael Art, not Michelle Art. I read the comment wrong in my correction of corrections. See?
I can thin any of these down. I just want to create some little different highlights in the street that are a little more horizontal. I'm also going to come here into the blue and the black. And kind of make sure that there's a shadow coming back from her, right? Those kind of had some really nice, fun, hot pops to them that I really, really liked. That I thought was super exciting. Maybe get a little bit of my orange over into my little purple mix. Pull some of that down here. A little bit up here. And a little bit of orange there, kind of knocking that back, right? So it's bright, it's just not the only thing that's going on. And these sort of like dark highlights that are back here implying, you know, maybe something more is going on in the distance, and a little hinted at angular line that could be a boundary that's there. All right, let's dry, and we're going to come back and maybe start working on her a little bit, or maybe the rain, because we don't have any of the rain going over her, because I remember from last time how that went for everybody. So We'll do the rain maybe before we do her, and that way
Okay.
that's in and we can correct it if we don't love it.
So you'll get this thoroughly dried, just so we can go in there and add those. I love how the lights all look reflective in the water, and this is all just so, it's a very emotional, evocative background because it's indescript, and it makes your brain sort of fill in what it thinks it is. It's like, there's some light over there. What kind of light is it? And your brain's like, it's this kind of light. Very, very like, it knows what it is. So it's going to solve the problem for you.
Hmm?
It's like, I like how when you look at paintings like this, I consider them kind of very emotional because the background being nondescript prompts your brain to fill in a gap. Like my
It really
brain,
does.
my brain says, "Oh yeah, there's a restaurant back there with some lights and some people and a parking garage, and it's already figured it all out.
Right. It finishes it out. It goes, there's a thing.
I know what's back there."
It's there. I recognize shapes. We're okay. We can walk down the street. It's true. It does that.
So you ready for your next step?
I am. Now I'm going to utilize the power of the T-square ruler. Everywhere that I can, right? Maybe I'll go up. I might get a better square up this. So what I'm trying to do is just make sure that my lines, goodness gracious, are straight. I'll use, it's not my purest white, but it's like pretty white, and I'm going to come here and do little dashes like that. Not a lot. They should be light. Should be a dry brush. And then I'll come over and maybe even lighter than that. Might need to get them even lighter than that. Posca pen would be wonderful right now. If you have them, it's a good time to take them out. I may switch to my liner brush just to get a finer line. It's okay to have some thick lines. This one has some. So I'll do some continuity through here, and then I'm going to come back with my liner brush and get even some of the finer lines that are in there. What using the T-square ruler does for me, besides totally, this is going to be so hard on the time lapse. What it does for me is it allows me to ensure that my lines are straight. Notice that they're not connected lines. They're dashes down. It's not terrible. I don't hate it. And I may need some more with the ruler, but I like where this is going.
It's in the right direction.
It's in the right direction. All right, so T-square ruler, number 1 monogram liner. Let's hope that this will give us that finer line I'm hoping for. Yeah, it does. So sometimes we're going to want it to be kind of a very dry brush, and sometimes we're going to want it to be kind of a little heavy brush. Because we're implying that the rain is coming down in this kind of a way. So it's not coming at an angle like we normally do. See how we're getting it? This tool is like $2.99 is completely worth it. I can't imagine my life without it. I have some where the numbers are clear and I have some that I can paint out edges on. So that's how I kind of handle. It's looking pretty good. We're getting that rain effect now, aren't we? Again, things that you do, what I'll say is if you're going to start doing some digital work to plan paintings, my learning advice as I go, is that sometimes tools that are super easy in that space are not as easy in the painting space. You get a brush and you're like, this is great. It's super scratchy. I love it. Let's make it big. And let's put it on a like adjustment so it has to go straight. You know, and then you're there and you're like, oh, that's going to be a whole thing when we got to paint it in. And then a little bit down here, maybe like a little touch coming off the edge. I like it.
Yeah.
Just trying to make sure that I've got lots of little lines. But it's feeling like the rain now, isn't it?
Really
Feels
is,
like
yeah.
the rain that it is. And that's kind of just super enjoyable. Get a little bit of this sort of thinned out. Working both sides of my ruler now. So if I have like something I kind of want to like knock back, right, I can always come back with and kind of fade that in so it's not so noticeable, right? So it's a little bit muted and still have it there. I think this is pretty good. And then I can come back through, and because I have these nice straight lines, I can kind of come in and paint it up a bit, as you can see. Because the lines that are there will help me stay straight. See how I'm filling up the rain over her head in that lighter area where it would be heavier. I'm doing my 1/4 inch angle brush now. because I can fill that up. So while I would absolutely get off my axis, for sure, without a doubt, in my mind, left to my own devices, this does help me quite a lot. Okay. Look at that now. Oh, man, right? Look at us
like
go.
this could be done right here. It just looks great like this.
It could be, but we've got more to do.
Yeah?
We've got more to do. So let's dry it and heat my coffee and come back and do the next one.
So we'll finish drying this. So the rain coming down. Won't take but a moment. Then I'll go dry her, or dry. I will warm up her coffee while you guys go on to the next step. The 10th step.
Step 10. Oh, I knew it heated. So is there any questions or anything? You guys, okay. We just walked away, and I don't. You know what I got to do is I'll switch it to live chat, which is a completely different chat. All right, Lindsay. Hey everybody, I see Lynn and Lilibel, and I see C. Blanton, and oh gosh, just the whole crew. So this last little bit is where she's all going to come together. We will deepen this shadow once we have her more in and we're happy with how we painted her. We're going to be using a mix of the quinacridone, cad red, and Doc's purple. And then back here, we'll probably highlight this with a mix of ultramarine and Doc's purple, like on the highlight. And the whole ankle and all of that will come together based on the highlight. I am going to wear my vision enhancers because nothing helps you paint more than being able to see. So I highly recommend that, being able to see in every conceivable way. So I think I'm going to work a lot with my 1/4 inch angle, and I've got some other details here that I will probably pull in, but this is where I kind of want to be thinking about. I'm rinsing out my liner so it's available to me. Now, as I said, the mix is going to be a little quinacridone and a little cad red. Isn't that wonderful? And then a little of our Doc's purple. And then we'll lighten it with white. Maybe darken it with blue, but that's kind of where I'm going to be heading. I'm going to come here and think about, you know, maybe the back of the skirt. Got a bit of a shadow that's going to come here. And I know that's there because I kind of pre-put it in, so it's a bit of a roadmap for me. And I'll start putting in where I think my dark shadows will be. And I might come over here with these two for an even darker shade. Just a little bit there. Now I might still have one shade down from this. Right? There might still be a shade down. Just putting in those shadows where I have them. Dark shadow under the elbow there. We know that we're going to have. You know, and then I can just add white into my mix that I've got here, right? This wonderful white, and I can start to try to find the highlights. This won't be my lightest highlight, but I'm just starting to capture a couple values. You know, and if we got to go back into the dark colors to pull these little folds in, again, we will. I'm going to get a very, very light color right here. Again, this is just that first study. And you can kind of see how her folds are starting to come in and her fabric is. So by taking a second and thinking about this in the beginning, we saved ourselves some misery, right? Working out some of these folds and some of the stuff. Now that doesn't mean that we're not going to, I'm going to get over here and maybe a little more magenta kind of color. But perhaps now some of the harder parts of what we had going on won't be so hard for us. We get the hot, you know, the very, very bright side of the hat, and then the a little darker at the brim there. And our color's a little lighter out. So we've just got this sort of underpainting going in, and I'm going to even out her brim with like a round brush and everything, but I'm just getting there, right? So I'm going to take a little bit of my black and some of my phthalo blue together. Make sure that I get that one leg in. Yeah, she's not on a heel, she's on a flat. Adding a little bit of that reflection coming back, that little shadow coming back. I'm going to come here and get a little of my blue and white. And start that reflection at the back of her leg. That helps us see her. There we go. That second leg in. And we'll give that, you know, a hot minute. Come over here and get a little quin, a little red, and a little yellow together. And a little burnt sienna into it. Just a little hint of the ankle right there. It's fun. Okay, let's dry this. Sip our newly warmed coffee that I almost missed entirely,
Yep.
and come back and do the next layer.
So yeah, thank you, Michael. We do travel. We do. So if you guys go back into our history, there's lots of videos back here where we would do traveling. We would try to make little travel vlogs. What we were doing, like when we went to Golden Factory. There's some really good travel vlogs that we did then. We'll probably be doing some more of those in Europe, along with equipment that will allow us to go places and set up and paint. And that's kind of the idea, is that we really rewind my tongue. We would really like to go explore Europe and bring you guys with us. Kind of the whole purpose of us going over there is to be able to have access to cooler places to paint from, as well as, you know, for us to sort of connect to a place that we've always wanted to live ourselves. So we will be bringing you with us on our painting journeys overseas.
Yes, we will.
And here's the next step.
Next step. Filbert. I might use the filbert. I think I'm going to go into my number 4 Isacryl filbert. I feel like it's going to give me a hand, and then I'm also going to use my number 1 monogram liner. One of the things I've got to do is get my hat in hand. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to grab my purple with a little bit of my quin. I'm going to tip this so I can see it better. Because sometimes it's just hard to see where you're going if you're painting flat. I'll fill that a little bit in. The nice thing is you can always come back with your gray color. And tip anything in that you need to do. So you've got room to be there. I'm going to take my Cad Red and quinacridone, little Diox Purple, and in some cases quite a lot of Diox Purple. Come back and start mixing in the different values. I'm going to come here with this kind of Cad Red and Quin on the edges of this and kind of paint some of these little wrinkles that are popped a bit.
So if
I'm
you
going
don't,
to add this out. I feel like it should be more out like that.
I don't remember this question being asked before. Maybe like it's not a common one. If you don't have ultramarine blue, can cobalt blue as a close pigment medium be exchanged? I'm not sure if those are the same.
I don't have it memorized if it's a green bias or red bias blue, but if you go to Golden Arts Colors website, they actually have them all rated into where their bias is, and so you can actually see it. I think it is. What you want to do is you want to add white to it and ask yourself, does this look a little more green or red? And when you add white, does it go a little more purple or is it a little more turquoise?
Karen thinks that adding a tiny bit of red to cobalt would make it even closer to ultramarine blue.
Yeah, it might.
And that's one of those great things. You can swatch that. You could just take a little piece of paper and then mix it and then paint it and let it dry and then say, oh, is that the color that I wanted? So, experiment.
I definitely think experimenting is a good idea. I'm going to try my number 4 round here. See if I can get a good enough point on it to do this. All right, so I've got my Cad Red and my Diox Purple here. Might even get some of my Phthalo Blue, and it just creates just a deep, deep shadow, man. And I want to pull out these little shadows and get them in and kind of thought about. A little bit there coming up, There we go, just getting those in there. A little bit of a kind of wrinkle there where it comes across the arm and then there's a bit of a shadow. And a bit there. A bit there. Just getting them in deep. Get them deep. Getting some lighter values because we want some nice light values here. And sometimes it's just coming back and forth and playing those like very light values against deeper values. I'm adding white to it. Kind of across the top back of the jacket. A little bit coming down. Maybe there where the elbow would be, a little highlight there to kind of say, hey, well, that's where it was. Kind of blend in with the mid-tone color. Kind of hit with the higher red in there. So it's still in shadow, but it just feels brighter than what's around. A little bit of a highlight there. A little bit of one there. Kind of capturing the outside of that. A little bit there. And kind of see that the coat's starting to take shape. Maybe a little bit of a dark there. It's kind of like a center of that little hat. Just capturing those little bits. I just want to get those little highlights going. And dry brush that down a bit. Starting to see where the coat's coming together? Get a middle range, and we're just getting the grays, the middle ranges, and we're just trying to capture like the whole value of that coat. capturing little wrinkles there. I think it's always interesting to solve these kinds of puzzles. And it's going to be really fascinating how we pull it out and get it to pop. But while we're letting this all have a dry, I'm going to come here and get a little of my blue, not too much white. And with my #1 liner, kind of create a little highlight on the back of the calf that's subtle, but there. Just get it going. Those little reflections make a difference. Capturing those little deep shadows. So it's just subtle on the legs, but you do want it. A little bit of yellow. A little bit at the back of the ankle as well. Okay, let's call this a step. I'm going to dry it, and then we're going to do the highlights to pop the coat.
So yeah, I really like how this is sort of coming together, and the closer look there, I think you can kind of see how those brush strokes and the shadows. Yeah, I'm totally loving the shadows on this.
All right.
You ready for your next?
Yes.
Step?
#1 monogram liner going to be your friend all the way down now. So I'm going to take a little bit of my white and kind of thin it into my coat color and make a very light highlight, series of very, very light highlights. Eventually it will culminate in a white, but right now I don't want the pure white. Adding a little bit of highlight at the cap there. Kind of coming off the hat. A little bit at the shoulder. Come across, and we're going to pick up some of these little wrinkles coming down. A little bit right there on the inside of the coat. Just getting it to flow is very important because you want it to flow off the brush. And kind of darken that color. Can always take it into a lighter color pretty easily. bring a little bit of that wrinkle up there. Kind of little scratchy lines picked up there. I mean, you can come through and using detail create quite a lot. See how we're capturing all those little subtle things?
Everybody's really loved the folds here.
Just getting that fabric in. Fabric can be kind of a nemesis, can't it? Honey's calling me, but I can't answer.
No worries. I'll take care of it.
Okay. Just want to let you know, just in case it was urgent. Going back through all of that and really trying to make sure that our coat feels in motion, feels let's add a little red through here, kind of energize that area. A little bit of the dark fold there. A little bit of highlight there at the shoulder. Just all the little dimensionality here.
So interesting. Lily was asking if you were doing a man, would you uncinch the coat and put trousers on?
Yes.
So I have almost an identical version of this jacket.
It's just if you're trying to make it look masculine, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I definitely wouldn't cinch the waist
unless
nearly
you
as much.
have a model that has masculine proportions and
Yeah.
you have that coat in motion, I would definitely open the coat. Even though John has a coat.
Just the narrowing of the hips at the waist it's rarely done in men's attire, but in not to get on little soapboxes, but in well tailored clothing, it should slightly taper at the hip. Depending on the jacket design, lines and things like that. Blah 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 blah.
Blah 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 blah.
It's not like
Bring a little bit of that there.
I wouldn't consider myself a fashionista, even though I do have a subscription to Vogue.
Just what? Oh, so funny. A little bit there on the coat. Those little highlights that catch moments. So sometimes you can get away with anything when you have reference, but sometimes if you're just trying to work it, then you've got to realize that we have a tendency. I'm adding much more white now, trying to capture like a little bit of spotted light that's coming on.
Oh. Hello, no more? You should paint some acrylic with us too. It's like watercolor, only thicker.
Much thicker.
It's different, but
A little bit of that there. And I'm going to come along the coat. See, this sort of the white edge there sort of helps it feel a little like rained on. It's a weird deal, but it works. A little white edge helps it feel a little rained on. See, just a little bit there. Adding a little bit there, just like that, because it gives it that wet feel. Now we're just playing with that. Now we're toying with the viewer, aren't we?
Mm.
I'm kind of wiggling my brush to make, you know, some of this kind of feel rough.
Michael wants to know, do we paint for the money or for art's sake? I would say, well, we're definitely not in it for the money.
Us? I try not to be bitter when I see NFT artists make like $100 million in a single sale, or, you know, I mean, you guys know I'm fine with AI, but like there's people who will make AI art and then sell it, and they're making more money than me already. So I've come to accept these things. I definitely do this because I think people are happier when they paint. And I think it's the thing that I can do to help make the world a happier place.
They say, I would prefer to win with honor. Or I would prefer to fail with honor than win by cheating.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's sometimes some of the ways that we're presented with making money in the art world don't honor the people who are patroning you. And I don't feel that NFTs are a good way of honoring the investment of people who come make what we do possible. So it's also the reason why we don't we're very reluctant to be part of other kinds of platforms that do that.
Yeah, I'm not ever going to do NFTs. I can see. You can make fun of me later if I turn out to be wrong, but right now they're not a good investment.
They're not a frickin' thing.
And I think what really made that clear is when the cryptocurrency just went away.
We sell AFTs, actual frickin' things.
Yeah. You know, I just come around and I just keep playing with the little curves of the fabric until I'm happy, right? You know, you've got to be happy. Are you happy?
Mm-hmm.
And then definitely under this bottom side, I'm going to come and get a little bit of my black and purple, and I'm going to make sure that okay. I'm happy with that. How you guys feel? I feel like we worked hard today. Let's take a look.
I think this is beautiful.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this.
I can't believe how well this turned out. I'm just so happy. I'm gonna zoom
come
in
in with a few more. I'm gonna come in with a few more things.
So you're like, I got more. I got
more. I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow and quinacridone into that purpling mix. Okay. I think it's just as far as I'm going to get her today. Some days are like that. It's as far as we're going to go.
Yeah.
I like her. I'm happy.
I'm very happy. This
worked.
turned out so beautiful.
It worked. Another Girl in the Rain down. And again, if this was challenging, remember there's a mini book coming out. I know it's going to be hard for to write it because of the.
But you're going to need to put your signature on there.
I am. And
so
then,
it's unique. Something that, you know.
And then I'll let people know what's next over the holidays.
This is so beautiful. Everyone is really loving this.
I'm so glad. All right. We signed her. We painted her. We did her. Look at us go. It was a journey, but we got there.
It really is beautiful.
And it is beautiful, and I'm really happy with how she came out overall. I'm happy with like the rain effect. I'm happy with the light effect. Yeah, I'm really pleased with all of it. It was some crazy color mixes that we haven't gotten into. It was a lot of techniques that we haven't gotten into before. Definitely 3 hoot. I know I rated this one correctly.
Love, love, love. Everybody's loving this.
Now we have an easy little floral, winter floral, coming up Tuesday. And then we are not going to have any lessons through Christmas until the following Tuesday and Thursday. And then instead of on Saturday, which is John's birthday, we have the class on Sunday. Mm. And the classes coming up then are going to be, so it's going to go winter floral, the adorable lucky cat, because he's a black cat, so he's a lucky cat, and the rainbow landscape, which I'm excited to do. I'm finishing with the floral fairy, which was almost going to be just a patron only, and then I was like, you know what, she's perfect for the new year. So on the first of the new year, we're kicking it off with her. I also am going to start doing a series of classes on color mixing where we, instead of doing 403 color recipes in one thing, that we do them in little blocks, and we work on the palette that we have and mixing different, like the greens, the different colors that I get, so that this type of mixing is not so challenging and seems more second nature. And if you're planning on doing acrylic April this year, you don't want to miss a single color mixing class. And John is going to put it together in a classroom setting. So if our website navigation is frustrating, that'll be a way for you to get it in a connective thing, and we'll let you know as we release that. So those are going to be coming up. So hit the subscribe button, especially if you want to know about color mixing, like all the color mixing all of the time, like all of it. I'm going back to the beginning. It's practically Big Art Quest level back to color mixing, but greens, and we're going to do secondaries and tertiaries, and then we're going to mix some primaries with secondaries, and we're going to make blacks and browns, and we're going to stay within our palette. So it'll be like, if you paint with me, it will be the best class ever. But it won't hurt you painting anywhere else, because you're going to really come out of it knowing what your pigment does and why it does it. So watch for those. Hit subscribe. Don't miss that. I'm going to see you Tuesday before the holiday. Be safe out there. I hope you guys are doing really, really well. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.